Thousands of fans traveled from across the globe to Berlin. Many of them flew thousands of miles from the Philippines, spending their hard-earned money on flights and hotels just to watch one person, Alex Eala, the Filipino tennis sensation who has captured the hearts of 115 million people. They arrived at the Steffi Graf Stadion hours before the match. They waved their flags. They wore their Eala jerseys. They were ready to cheer. But as the gates opened, something happened that left them stunned. The Berlin Open had other plans. The fans were turned away, told they could not enter, told there was no room, told they would have to watch from outside. Alex Eala, who had been preparing for the biggest match of her grass court season, heard the commotion. She saw her fans being denied entry, and she did something that nobody expected. She stopped the match. She walked to the umpire. She refused to continue until her fans were let in. The tennis world is divided. Some say she was right. Others say she overstepped. But one thing is clear. What happened in Berlin has fans furious and asking serious questions about the tournament organizers. For more coverage in tennis, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Before the controversy, there was anticipation. Alex Eala arrived in Berlin carrying the hopes of 115 million Filipinos. The pressure was immense. Her Wimbledon seeding dream hung in the balance. She had dropped to world number 35 after a tough loss to Eva Jovic at Queen's Club. The top 32 at Wimbledon get seeds, and she was just outside that magic circle. She needed a deep run in Berlin to secure her spot. But Eala was not alone in Berlin. Her fans were with her, and they made their presence felt. The Filipino community in Germany, along with those who had traveled from the Philippines, the United Kingdom, and the Middle East, had gathered in force. They were ready to cheer. They were ready to create the atmosphere that had become Eala's trademark, a sea of red, white, blue, and yellow flags waving in the stands. The anticipation was heightened by Eala's recent form. She had just won the Birmingham Open, her first grass court title, and had extended her winning streak on grass to 6 matches. She was riding a wave of momentum, and her fans wanted to be there to witness history. She was entering the Berlin Open as a wild card, but she was already proving she belonged. There was also a fire alarm at 3 a.m. that had disrupted Eala, Coco Gauff, and Eva Liss's sleep. The false alarm occurred at 3 a.m., forcing them to evacuate their hotel and wait outside for nearly an hour before being allowed to return. This meant Eala was going into her match against Donna Vekic with significantly less rest than she needed. Despite the early morning chaos, Eala remained focused. She spoke about the importance of staying grounded. She said, "I just came here to play tennis. I am going to give everything I have in every match." That was classic Alex Eala. Humble, hungry, never satisfied. The stage was set. The fans were ready, and the Berlin Open was about to make a decision that would infuriate them. As the gates opened, a crowd of eager fans rushed toward the entrance. They had tickets, they had arrived early, they had followed all the rules, and yet they were turned away. Security guards explained that the stadium had reached capacity, that there was no more room, that they would have to watch from outside. The reaction was immediate. Filipino fans, known for their passionate and vocal support, began to protest. They showed their tickets. They explained that they had traveled long distances. They demanded to be let in. But the security guards, following orders from tournament management, did not budge. The reason was logistical. The Berlin Open, a WTA 500 event featuring 9 of the top 10 players in the world, had oversold tickets. The tournament had reserved a certain number of seats for VIPs, sponsors, and local German fans. When the VIPs and sponsors arrived late, the organizers made a decision. They blocked the early arriving fans, many of whom were Filipino, and gave their seats to the late arriving VIPs. It was a decision that reeked of favoritism. The fans were furious. They had spent thousands of dollars on flights and hotels. They had taken time off work. They had traveled across the world to support their hero. And now they were being told that they could not enter because of a seating issue that was not their fault. The decision was not just unfair, it was discriminatory. What made the situation worse was the contrast with the rest of the tournament. The tournament director had previously complained about low ticket sales, even with Serena Williams' comeback. Despite having one of the biggest stars in tennis history, the stadium was not sold out. Yet when a wave of passionate Filipino fans arrived, eager to fill the seats, they were turned away. The irony was not lost on the fans. They were being denied entry to a tournament that was struggling to attract local spectators. The fans outside the stadium were not just disappointed, they were angry. They felt that they had been disrespected. They felt that their support was being taken for granted. They felt that the tournament organizers had made a conscious choice to prioritize corporate VIPs over genuine fans. The tension was palpable, and it was about to escalate dramatically. Inside the stadium, Alex Eala was warming up for her match against Donna Vekic. The atmosphere was already tense, but she remained focused on the task at hand. She knew the stakes of this match, as she needed a deep run in Berlin to secure her Wimbledon seeding. But as she was preparing to serve, she heard a commotion from outside the stadium. Chants, songs, shouts in Tagalog, the unmistakable sound of Filipino fans. She paused. She looked toward the stands, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The noise continued. Her coach looked at her. The umpire looked at her. Everyone was wondering what was happening. And then she saw the truth on the big screen. A camera had been pointed outside, showing the crowd of Filipino fans who had been locked out. They were waving their flags. They were chanting her name. They were demanding to be let in. Alex Eala's face went from confusion to anger. She walked to the umpire's chair. The match was about to begin, but Eala had other plans. She said, "I am not playing until my fans are let in." The umpire tried to reason with her. He told her that the decision was not his. He told her that she could face penalties for delaying the match. Eala did not care. She walked off the court. The crowd inside the stadium gasped. The commentators scrambled to understand what was happening. And outside, the Filipino fans continued to chant. Eala walked toward the gates. Security guards tried to stop her. She walked past them. Tournament officials tried to talk to her. She ignored them. She reached the gates. She saw the Filipino fans, hundreds of them, pressed against the barriers, holding tickets, wearing Philippine flags. Some were crying. Some were shouting. All were angry. Eala raised her hand. The crowd fell silent. She spoke in Tagalog. She said, "Hindi kayo pababayaan. Hindi ako maglararo hanggat hindi kayo pinapapasak." Translation, "You will not be abandoned. I will not play until you are let in." Eala then turned to the tournament officials who had followed her to the gates. She spoke in English. Her voice was calm but firm. She said, "These people have tickets. They have traveled from all over the world to support me. You will let them in, or I will not play. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever again at this tournament. That is not a threat. That is a promise." The officials were stunned. They tried to explain. Overcrowding, safety regulations, VIP commitments. Eala cut them off. She said, "I do not care about your VIPs. I care about my people. Figure it out. You have 10 minutes. The tournament organizers scrambled. They understood the gravity of the situation. A player of Alex Eala's stature, especially one as beloved as she is by the Filipino community, had put the tournament on notice. After 8 minutes, they returned with a decision. They would open additional sections of the stadium. They would allow the Filipino fans to enter. They would apologize for the inconvenience. Eala nodded. She walked back to the court. She spoke to the umpire. She said, "We can resume now." The match continued. But the moment was not forgotten. The fans who had been blocked were let in. They found their seats. They waved their flags. They cheered louder than anyone. And Alex Eala, their champion, responded with one of the greatest performances of her career. She defeated Vekic in straight sets, 7-5, 6-4, saving 4 breakpoints while serving for the match. The news of Eala's protest spread quickly. Social media exploded with reactions. The hashtags Eala stands with fans, let them in, and Philippine pride trended worldwide. Fans praised Eala for her courage, for standing up for what was right, and for showing that she truly cares about the people who support her. Other players also weighed in. Coco Gauff, who had her own late-night disruption with Eala due to a fire alarm, showed her support. Eva Liss also commented on Eala's character. The sportsmanship on display was a stark contrast to the tournament's actions. The tournament organizers issued a statement. They apologized for the incident. They promised to review their policies. But the damage was done. The Berlin Open had shown a disregard for the fans who make the sport what it is. They had prioritized corporate VIPs over genuine supporters, and they had only corrected their mistake when a player forced them to. Let us zoom out, because the incident at the Berlin Open is about more than one match or one player. It is about respect. It is about the relationship between athletes and fans. And it is about what happens when that relationship is broken. Alex Eala did not have to stop the match. She could have ignored the commotion. She could have focused on her game. She could have let the tournament officials handle the situation. But she did not. She chose to stand up for her fans. She chose to fight for the people who have supported her through every loss, every victory, every tear, every smile. She chose to be a champion in more than just name. Her actions sent a powerful message, a message that the fans matter, a message that their support is not taken for granted, A message that the sport, at its best, is about the connection between players and the people who cheer for them. That is not something that can be taught. That is something that comes from the heart. The Berlin Open may have had other plans for Alex Eala's fans, but Alex Eala had other plans for the Berlin Open. She showed the world that she is not just a tennis player. She is a leader. She is a defender of her people, and she is a true champion, on the court and off. So here is where we leave you. Fans came to see Alex Eala, but the Berlin Open had other plans. They were denied entry. They were disrespected, but Alex Eala stood up for them. She stopped the match. She demanded that they be let in. She showed the world what it means to be a champion. The controversy continues. The debate rages on. But one thing is clear. Alex Eala is not just a tennis star. She is a hero, and her fans will never forget what she did for them. For more coverage in tennis, subscribe and hit the notification bell.